Ernest Borgnine really hated him more than anyone else. Ernest Borgnine was born with the name Hermes Ephron Borgino on January 24, 1917, in Hamden, Connecticut. Ernest's parents came from Italy. His dad worked hard doing manual labor, while his mom had different jobs to help the family make money, teaching young Ernest to work hard and never give up. His parents split up later, and Borgnine spent some of his childhood living in Italy and going back and forth between countries, which helped him understand and care about all different kinds of people. Even though he didn't show much interest in acting when he was young, his life would change in a surprising way that would lead him to become a Hollywood star. Before he became an actor, Borgnine served with pride in the United States Navy, joining. In 1935, he served for 10 years, including fighting in World War II, where he worked shooting guns on Navy destroyers in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The hard work, friendship with his fellow sailors, and sense of responsibility he learned in the Navy stayed with him his whole life. Borgnine often said the Navy made him who he was, teaching him to be humble, work with others, and show respect. After leaving the Navy, Borgnine studied acting and then worked in theater. His strong build, big, toothy smile, and expressive face made him stand out right away. Though he didn't look like a typical movie star, Hollywood first gave him tough guy and bad guy roles, and Borgnine loved playing these parts. He made a big impression early on in movies like The Whistle at Eaton Falls in 1951, and From Here to Eternity in 1953, where he played the mean Sergeant Fatso Judson. But Borgnine was much more than just a tough guy. In 1955, he gave the best performance of his life in Delbert Mann's movie, Marty, playing a lonely, sweet Bronx butcher looking for love. This role was totally different from the characters he played before, showing deep feelings that amazed audiences. And movie critics, Borgnine's acting as Marty Paletti was so real, honest, and touching that it won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, beating out famous actors like James Dean and Frank Sinatra. During the 1960s and 1970s, Borgnine kept building an amazing career in movies and TV shows. He appeared in big movies, including The Dirty Dozen in 1967, The Wild Bunch in 1969, and The Poseidon Adventure in 1972. He could easily switch between action movies, dramas, comedies, and westerns, always making his characters feel real. Movie directors liked him not just because he was talented, but also because he was professional and kind on set. Borgnine also became very successful on television, especially starring as Lieutenant Commander Quentin McHale in the popular show McHale's Navy from 1962 to 1966. Many years later, he became popular again as the voice of Mermaid Man on SpongeBob SquarePants, showing that people of all ages loved him. Ernest Borgnine's personal life was as exciting and complicated as the memorable characters he played on screen. During his long life, Borgnine got married 5 times, with each marriage showing a different part of his life. His first marriage was to Rhoda Kemmons. They had a daughter together during a time when Borgnine was still trying to make it as an actor, but the stress of trying to succeed became too much, and the marriage ended in 1958. Soon after, Borgnine got into a very public marriage with Mexican actress Katy Jurado. Their marriage lasted from 1958 to 1963 and got a lot of attention, because both were famous people. Even though the marriage lasted several years, differences in their backgrounds and the constant pressure of being famous eventually became too hard to handle. Maybe the most famously short marriage was his third one to Broadway legend Ethel Merman. It lasted only 32 days and became one of Hollywood's most talked about bad matches. Borgnine and Merman quickly figured out that admiring each other and being famous weren't enough to make a marriage work. Borgnine's fourth marriage, to Donna Runcourt, brought back a feeling of family and stability. Together, they had 3 children, 1 son and 2 daughters. Despite working hard to raise a family together, The marriage eventually fell apart, and after 7 years, the couple divorced. Finally, Borgnine married Tove Tresnes, a Norwegian-born businesswoman. This marriage turned out to be the steady relationship he had been looking for. Tove stayed with him through decades of continued success, lasting until Borgnine died. In Tove, he found not only a wife, but a lifelong companion. Among the many strong personalities Ernest Borgnine met during his career, no one made him angrier than Jan Michael Vincent. Borgnine was never a man who held back his words, and when he didn't like someone, everyone could tell. Borgnine believed strongly in being professional. Having worked his way up the hard way, he valued discipline, preparation, and respect for acting above everything else. Jan Michael Vincent, in Borgnine's eyes, was the complete opposite of those values. Borgnine was especially angry about what he saw as Vincent's constant unreliability. Vincent's problems with alcohol and drugs were well known, and Borgnine felt those problems kept messing up the filming. He didn't care who he hurt, Borgnine once said. If he showed up at all, that was supposed to be enough. It wasn't enough for me. What made Borgnine's anger even stronger was his feeling that Vincent wasted amazing talent. Jan Michael Vincent had undeniable charm and a natural way of being on screen. The kid had everything, Borgnine said bitterly: looks, talent, opportunities. Most actors would die for, and he threw it all away. Borgnine also had a problem with what he saw as Vincent's attitude toward other actors. He believed a movie set should work like a team, not a ranking system based on egos. He acted like the world owed him something, Borgnine said. I never believed that. You earn your place every day, or you don't deserve it. Unlike many people in Hollywood who changed their opinions over time, Borgnine never changed his mind, even years later, when Vincent's life had clearly fallen apart. Borgnine stayed blunt. Plenty of people have problems, Borgnine stated. They don't use them as an excuse to disrespect everyone else. This intense dislike wasn't caused by jealousy. Borgnine had nothing to prove. His anger came from disappointment and principle. He saw Jan Michael Vincent as a symbol of wasted promise and careless privilege. I loved acting too much to tolerate that, Borgnine said flatly. And for Ernest Borgnine, that judgment was final. At the age of 95, Ernest Borgnine's long and amazing life came to a quiet end. He died on July 8, 2012, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. The official cause of death was kidney failure. In the month before his death, Borgnine's health had started to get worse. He had surgery about 4 weeks earlier. Despite this, Borgnine stayed positive and involved, never one to make his own pain. Seemed dramatic. Just days before he died, Borgnine had gone back to the hospital for a routine medical checkup. Nobody expected that the end was close. The news of his death came as a deep shock, especially because he had stayed active and connected to his fans almost until the very end. After his death, Borgnine was cremated and given a military funeral, a deeply meaningful tribute that recognized his service in the Navy.